Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the No Easy Way Out podcast, West Coast, Michigan edition. We are today in beautiful downtown NEWO, Michigan at a building called The Stream. And this place is awesome. It reminds me a little bit of our place back home, the Armory. But I'm joined today by a really awesome guy, and that is Garrett Saldano. Garrett, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Garrett. Now, you're a passionate guy, and I'm excited to unwrap a little bit what we're going to talk about today. But first of all, let's start out by you telling our audience who you are and what your business is.
Well, my name is Garrett Saldano. I own 2 chiropractic clinics in the Kalamazoo area, and I've been there for 12 years. My background is in this area. I played football at Western Michigan University, and I love West Michigan, and so I decided to get roots here.
Okay. And was the chiropractic industry deemed essential by the government?
It's deemed essential, but we can only see what's called emergency patients. And so our job and role throughout this is to make sure that if anybody had to go to the hospital that was in pain or had a bulging disc or anything like that, we could see those people to try to prevent them from going to the hospital.
Okay. And so who determines, I guess, are you the one that determines what's emergency and what's not? Or does that have to get some sort of approval?
Yeah, the doctors do.
The doctors. Okay,
Yep.
So they have to be referred to you by a doctor.
Oh, no, like me as a doctor personally.
I
So
gotcha.
when the patient comes in and we're like, yep, so we'd have to follow protocols. When somebody calls in, do they have fever? Any symptoms of COVID? Obviously they do. We can't see them.
Sure.
But the next question would be like, hey, is your next step to the hospital? And they say, yes, come in and see us.
So you weren't then officially forced to shut down, but you were forced to pull back quite a bit. What percentage of your business do you think has been, missed by this now?
Me and other colleagues that I know personally, we're all down 50%.
50%.
At least 50%.
That's substantial. So what kind of impact has this had on your business and your industry as a whole?
We're barely surviving.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one, unfortunately. There's many other doctors out there who are not surviving.
What kind of an impact have you seen, and what have you heard from your employees? How is this affecting them?
Well, just with the stress of what's going on, the unknown, obviously, what's going to happen in the future. And that's what we're kind of in right now is this gray area. We don't know.
Yeah.
And I think people really don't understand what's coming is this financial crisis that is upon us.
Yeah. And what about your patients? What are you hearing from your patients? How is this affecting them? People that are used to getting routine adjustments and different things, what are you hearing from them?
The biggest thing that I've noticed is the amount of stress. And we tend to hold all of our stress in our upper back and neck. Mm-hmm. And what I've seen the most is, especially when kids have come seen me, the amount of stress that these kids are under is tremendous. And I've never seen that in my practice. When you palpate or examine somebody's back, the muscle tightness,
Mm-hmm.
you see that in adults because we have stress. But when I start seeing this in kids, something bigger is going on right now. And that's what I've experienced as a doctor. And that's what's concerning to me because these kids are experiencing the stress.
Yeah, I think it's very important for those of you listening, and I've said this on other episodes, but if you have children, make sure you're having conversations with them about what's going on right now. I mean, they can't process this even as well as you can, and none of us are really processing it that well. Most days, we don't even know what to think. There's so much information out there, and we're all trying to grab a hold of what is the right information, and there's a lot of different schools of thought. But kids, they're going to process it. If you're afraid, then your kid's fear level is going to be even higher. And so you need to just have those conversations. And kids certainly don't know how to deal with stress. Most adults don't either. So
And the adults have to be aware because
Absolutely.
what do they say? The kids always listen. They're always watching.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling that, they feel that stress. And so we really have to be accountable as parents now to make sure that we're not passing. And just like you said, to having these much needed conversations to educate them, empower them, and so forth. So, yeah.
Do you have children, Garrett?
I have 2 boys.
How has this affected your children and your family?
Well, tremendously. In the stress that they're under, obviously, with the organization that we started and the fight that we're in right now with Stand Up Michigan, it's been affecting my family.
I'm sure it has. So what are your plans, or do you have a timeline when you're going to be able to fully reopen, and has that been laid out for you yet?
Unfortunately, the governor has not made any plans for us to see. There's no hope. There's no beacon of light.
Right.
And so we're in this unknown area, and like most people right now, so we don't know when they're going to open up.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you're getting calls daily from people asking, when can I come in and get an adjustment, or when can I see you regarding this? So it's tough not to have an answer to give them. So let me ask you this. I know that you have been really involved with an organization. I understand you started a little Facebook group And so you've done a lot during the shutdown. You haven't just sat around. Why don't you tell our audience what you've kind of been working on since the shutdown happened?
Well, 4 weeks ago, obviously, and I talked about this on the Facebook group. I started this group out of selfish reasons.
Yeah.
I wanted a voice, and I was sick of sitting in the shadows. And I needed to voice my frustration with what was going on. So I started that group, Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine, a little over 4 weeks ago. And the first night we grew to like 500 people. And I was like, wow, there's 500 people that think just like me. Because like a lot of us out there, we thought we were alone.
Yeah.
And when I woke up the next morning, it was 9,000. And by the end of the day, it was 50,000. And we grew 100,000 people a day for the next 3 days. And then Facebook censored us and shut us down. And I believe strongly we would probably be over 1 million people right now if it wasn't for the censorship. But we're holding pretty strong at 380, still growing, but not the rate that we were in the beginning.
Wow. So Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine, there's a Facebook group that still exists, about 375,000 members strong, you said?
Yeah, I think 380 now.
And it's still growing a little bit every day, but not nearly at the rate that it was. You've mentioned before the show that you've had a lot of people say that they try to join the group and it doesn't allow them to. So there's certainly some censorship happening. I know Kevin Skinner, who's someone that's very involved in the group, had said on our show that some of his live broadcasts that he's tried to do have been limited to how many times per day he can post. And so, but tell us a little bit about what the objective of the group. I know it was just originally a way for you to have a voice, and it's kind of blown up, and now there's a lot of people looking to you and Kevin. You guys are kind of referred to as Beauty and the Beast. What is the end goal of the organization? Is it just people against quarantine, or what's it about?
No, not at all. We were never against the quarantine. We're against the Constitution being taken away from us. And when she started to do the excessive quarantine, telling us where we can and can't go, what we can and can't buy, you can go on a kayak, but you can't go on a motorboat. Those are the constitutional rights, our citizen rights, our sacred values that mean the most to all Americans, because that's what God has bestowed upon us on how to live. Those are our freedoms. And so the first thing that we want to accomplish is get Michiganders back to work as fast and as safe as possible. And after that is said and done, we want to start to make sure that we don't do the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We want to make sure that this never happens again. And we have to make sure that no governor in these United States will ever have this amount of power to rule over we the people. And so we want to go after those executive rights and allow legislature to work together for these common sense solutions that is obviously much needed in today's society. But as this platform evolves into something bigger and something more special, we want to help Michiganders and we want to help Americans recover from this. And what's to come is the financial crisis that is upon us. We want to be a platform for people to go to for up-to-date, accurate, truthful information and allow people to have a voice and to help them get back.
Yeah. So the group has the Facebook group still exists, Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine. You're not against quarantine. You all recognize that there was a need for that, but it's the excessive quarantines that have limited personal freedoms and different things that you just mentioned. But now that's kind of morphing into an organization that Kevin was telling us about when he was on our show. It's called Stand Up Michigan. Tell us a little bit about what Stand Up Michigan is and how people can find it.
And so it's going to be standupmichigan.com. We are an official organization. We're a nonprofit. And it's going to be a platform for a variety of different things that are going to come. And it's going to be a platform of accurate, truthful, and up-to-date information for people to go to and be a part of and allow this movement to continue to spread. And we want to be the lantern in the darkness of today's challenges.
Yeah.
And we will not only want to fight and reclaim our sacred values, our constitutional rights, but we want to make sure that we defend them. And we want to make sure that this never happens again.
Well, so one of the questions I'm curious about is, you are seeing a lot if you have 375,000 members, you're hearing a lot of different things. What are some of the things you're hearing from people that are a part of this group?
You just gave me the chills. I'm a little emotional about this right now because of Carl the barber yesterday that we went and supported in Owasso, who decided
from our hometown, Carl Menke.
Yeah.
Carl's been cutting my hair since I was a little boy.
Unbelievable patriot to stand up because he had no choice. He just wants to get back to work. And for us to go, me and Kevin went live there, and people were driving from 4 hours away just to come and meet us. And one of the things that really stuck with me, that really hit home to me right now, is when I hugged a woman, and she started to cry in my arms. And she's like, I haven't been hugged in a month. We are social beings. We need that interaction. This cannot be the new normal. If I have anything to say about this, this will not be the new normal. I mean, we're already hearing that, school may be canceled in the fall and there's not going to be any recess for kids, and they're going to basically censor these kids in cubicles so they don't have no social interaction. This virus can't be the cause of all this. I mean, we've said this from the very beginning, that the solution to this can't not be bigger than what's going to happen from what's going on with the social distance and everything else. And for have a woman in your arms crying because there was no social interaction, that's not how God created us. And so this movement is growing bigger than me. It's bigger than all of us. It's bigger than self, and that's passion. And when you believe that your cause is just, magic happens. And I cannot say that God does not have his hands in this, because the amount of people in such a short amount of time that came together to help us move this movement it's been a miracle. And I'm excited because what we've been able to do in 4 weeks has been astronomical. But you imagine what we can do in 5 years. That's what I'm excited for. And that's what gets me out of bed now, is that, to understand that we're going to make a difference. And it only takes one person to stand up. The power of one. And we heard about those things and we read about those things. But to experience that and what it can lead to, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I can hear the passion in your voice, and it's clear if anyone's ever watched you on the group, they can hear the passion. I know you've been interviewed by a lot of media outlets, including some national media outlets, but I'm certain that there are some skeptics to what you're doing. There are some people that would wholeheartedly disagree with what you're standing for right now and what you believe. So what would you say to the people that just think you're dead wrong and don't believe in what you do?
I've obviously experienced a lot of hate over the first 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, there was people calling in saying they're going to slit my kids' throats. Some very horrible things were said to me, done to me. And, just this past weekend, for a person that I knew for 25, 30 years, who I went to college with, to look me in the eye and say she despises me and everything that I stand for. And I looked at her and I said, I stand for the Constitution of the United States. And she's like, exactly. Wow. That hurt. However, that also allowed me to understand that people don't know what they don't know. They don't know what was taken away from them. They're in fear. And so that just puts more gasoline on the fire of liberty within my heart and within my soul. And that allows me to understand that we have to continue to educate. Because one day, as we continue to speak these truths, and that's why I'm so transparent in all my live interviews, is allow people to know and understand and see in my very eyes that what I'm saying is truth. And it's with heart, and it's with passion, and it's for the love of people, and it's for the love of God. That truth will continue to leach into them until one day they'll say, and that's what's happening right now. Yeah. We're getting a variety of people. We always say there's 40% that are just going to hate us because we stand for the Constitution. Now, this is the 40% that's going to love us. But it's that middle that we're reaching now. I love more than ever when I see Democrats get onto our group, because we are a bipartisan, nonviolent, positive group. And to see these Democrats say, hey, we don't support Trump, we voted for the governor, but we don't agree with what she's doing. Can I be a part of this group? Yeah. Absolutely. Welcome to the family.
Yeah, and so what you're saying really is you're not just a voice for people that agree with you. You're not trying to just be a voice for people that agree with you. You're trying to be a voice of the people and listening to how this is affecting people and really trying to make sure that the things that are important to people, their freedoms and liberties, are being heard by the right people. Am I gathering that correctly?
100%. Look, the solution to this cannot come from government. It's got to come from us, the people. We need to be the lantern in the darkness of today's challenges, because we have to make sure that our aspirations continue to take root, our legacies grow, and all of our family trees continue to flourish for generations to come. So they may hate us. That's okay. We can disagree. But when you talk about that piece of paper, which our forefathers inked for us to have these rights and these freedoms, they have to support it.
Yeah. Well, Garrett, thank you so much for being on the show today. We appreciate you sharing your insight with us and appreciate sharing how this has impacted you and your business. And thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate it. And thank you for watching the show today. Thank you for joining us. As my mother always says, you can't and never could until you tried. So go out there and try something great today, my friends, and don't take the easy way out. We'll see you next time.